Okay. Her question is if I move, what confidence do I have that all of a sudden I'm not going to be victimized by phase 2 or 3 or whatever?
The plan seems to be changing. A month or two ago, a couple of slideshows ago, my house wasn't included, and now the house next door and our house is. So is this, I know it's not being done in the back of an envelope exactly, but
Right.
is this, am I going to get, I'm 68, I'd like to live here 20 years. I don't want to move again or be forced to move again.
Well,
unless I have-
I'm voting for 30, by the way.
Okay. So what belief can I put in this master plan?
Well, let me just phrase it one way, in that you can have great confidence in the slow motion machinery of county government. Okay? We are going through a pretty expensive process to do the rezoning, and it's not just, hey, Falcons Land, you can now increase your residency or number of units from X to Y. We have to get very specific about the sites of where things are going to be. That process is going to be done probably by the county. It's going to be voting on whether to approve that or so, probably in October. And then in January or so, it'll probably be the final decision. So at that point, you can sort of pour concrete on it. Okay? Now, we are not looking at construction starting until about 2018 at best. Mid-year, maybe 2019. So this is a ways out. And also, I'm not trying to foster any hopes that some of you may have, but the board has authorized right now going through the rezoning process. Okay? That's all the board has authorized. Because we've learned more, as we talked about in the past month, we're going to have steps at which the board will make decisions about whether to proceed or not or whatever. Now, if you're asking, do I think it's likely? I would say yes. But the board is not going to take any steps that, without careful consideration of all facts, financial, land, people impacts, what's doable, what's not, and take a stepwise approach in going forward. But to answer your main question is by the end of the year, we'll really know, and we'll have it pretty much solidified over what our potential maximum footprint is. We can scale back from that. If we desire, we just can't do more than what we propose to the county. Now, there are 3 phases that we were looking at. We proposed to the county 3 phases. That's so we wouldn't have to go back again. The only thing we're talking about today is phase 1. As far as, maybe construction 2018, 2019, going forward, impacting the people here. Other phases, we'll see how that goes. Did we like it? Did we not? What did we learn from it? And that kind of thing. So hopefully that answered your question for.
Don't want to move into a phase 2 house. Phase 2 would be a moving target.
So part of the plan that we have to get approved, as Admiral Timmy said, was that we have to show what Falcons Landing 2045 might look like. Just to throw a date out there, it's not a specific thing, but what's that possibility? Where would things be? And in that plan, we have all the phases in there. In that plan, should it make it through the process by the end of the year, we sit down with you and say, all right, this is potentially 2045 if we go beyond phase 1 at all. So this is what cottages aren't impacted. And now, you said, what assurance? I don't know that's about as good as we can get. It's not going to be random. It's not going to be move things around. You could always do that, but at expense and disruption that, you really only want to pull this Band-Aid off once, and yes, ma'am. Oh, so we got somebody here.
Here I am.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on the board and taking all this masochistic stuff here. You did a great job upgrading us here, and so we really thank you for that. What we have here is a difference of opinion, pretty clearly. And we've got a database to work from. I would think marketing has enough time to show people as best you can what the model will look like, what they'll look like inside, and get feedback from present people on the list to come in, and people who have been here and decided not to, if they're still available to us, and new people. So the data, I think, will show that you're wrong this case, and we're basically right. Because I won't accept the assumption that this is the right way to go unless we get some more data, and we've got an opportunity to pick up that data in the next year or so or two.
Like I said, this is a long process, you know, and for both considering design, both considering implementation, and attractiveness. You know, I think, you know, if you go by the Gallup poll of what's attractive in the market is clearly voting in this direction. From a number of places, anywhere from Charleston up in Pennsylvania where we went to, where the extensive conferences that the staff attend over what people are leaning towards, market surveys. You know, I'm willing to be I'm willing to make sure that we share what we're intended with you. I mean, it's clear that an open foray of information is advisable at this stage. So, you know, having your opinions on various things is fine, but we've also got to look at the general populace and what other people are doing.
We have our own data that we can get. Our own people here saying, I love it, I don't like it.
Right, and I will also say that we are also looking at people a number of years downstream, you know, for doing that. And, you know, I'm not going to say I'm over-biased by one thing. I mean, our architects have done well by us in what they've done in market surveys and analysis. But I'll also tell you the one spot point I've got. My wife, 56. When I showed her the designs of this, she goes, "Ooh, I'd move in there. I'd live in that." So that's just one data point for it go along. Okay. I'm sorry. We had somebody else that had. Sorry.
They hand a microphone there.
My turn?
Yeah. Then we'll get to you, sir. I promise.
I'm Jerry Schumacher. I say that, I'm not anonymous. I promise not to stuff any anonymous note in your mailbox. And let me go back. I came here in the end of 2008. And just before the last construction project, I was in this room and I heard many comments like, how can you possibly take away my beloved soda shop? And what do you mean you're going to take out the fireplace in the lounge? And how are we going to get enough staff to come into a wood-burning grill? And what do you mean I have to walk up to another building on the second floor when I can just walk down to the Johnson Center and get to the Wellness Center? And what do you mean you're going to take away my patio next to the pool out there, which is seldom used, but it's lovely? And I've heard all this stuff. Well, guess what? We don't hear those comments much anymore. So in the interest of full disclosure, I have a 56-year-old son who's on the list to come in here, who happened to hear the earlier version of this, and he said, that's a great idea. We do have a difference of opinion, and that's a valid comment. Getting more information, I think that's a valid comment, but I suspect what we'll find out is that there are a lot of people in the younger generations who are actually looking at these other places. Go out and look at VI or Hyatt, old Hyatt, and take a look at what they're doing. And compare that with the Fairfax, which has gone from Marriott to Sunrise. They're not putting any money in that, and it shows. So my plea to you is listen to what we say, stay the course, and I'm sorry that whatever we're paying you, which is nothing, you ought to get a lot more. Thank you for doing that.
Well said.
Thank you, Jerry. I do want to let you know, your board feels very well compensated. Hardy very carefully gives us a $10 bill in an envelope every board meeting to pay for some of our gas money to get here. So your board, we are a compensated board. I just want to let you know that. But thanks for your comments. You know, I really didn't want to say that. That's kind of how I felt. You know, where change is hard, and especially when you're very comfortable. But, you know, I think you can see that the board, you know, is, and in fact, I want to give full credit to Mike shepherded most of that effort that you saw going on there. And he is, you know, he's the reason why I think we have gotten so many positive comments and satisfaction from those changes. And so I hope you have confidence that the board plans to do due diligence in doing the same thing. Now, I do want to point out that Mike, this is Mike's last year on the board. I stretched him an additional year.
Just for this meeting.
until next summer, and then I recruited George Eichert. George, you'd stand up. And he's the guy I mentioned at the board meeting, at the annual meeting, as the facilities manager for Navy Federal. He doesn't take account questions, but I really wanted to have him overlap with Mike so that we could really have the same, you know, expertise going on here. So, but I do appreciate your thoughts. Thank you, sir.
Yes. From the beginning, it has been mentioned that this would provide for more people here at Falcons Landing, and in fact, in the first question, it was alluded that there would be more people. Now, I'm concerned about accommodating some of the additional people. For example, the dining facilities. If you look around the ballroom here, it looks like it's full. Now, being a numbers person, I have not heard any reference to specifically about how many more people would be coming in. But what I would like to hear is precisely, not broad generalizations, but precisely what has been planned to increase the dining facilities, the ballroom here to accommodate another 80 or 100 people that might be coming in. So tell us precisely what those plans are.
So I want to give you the math, okay, just so we talk in clear facts and not presumptions. Of We're going to lose 12 residents is currently, and we're going to gain 24. So that's a net gain of 12 residents. So that's an additional 24 people, perhaps? Well, plus, well, that's, you know, that is well in the future. And, you know, so if you want to, you know, you want to know what, you know, what that piece is well in the future, we'd have to, you know, accommodate and look at the staffing well in the future. Right now, we're talking about 12 additional residences, plus, so you have a comment, we're taking away 12 and we're adding 24, that's a net of 12. 12 what? Residences, right, units. So that's before you go, I want to make sure we weren't talking about 80, 100
Right.
people.
So adding a net of 12 residences, plus a 18 in the memory unit. Now, part and parcel of, this is an integrated approach. This is what we have the architects for, to look at loading of, you know, because we have to account for parking, we've got to account for numbers of people in various dining facilities, actual usage, not just theoretical maximums. We have to weigh in for, okay, how does that affect staffing, parking? All those things get factored in. Right now, we are not laying in plans for, okay, let's resize everything for the execution of all phases 1, 2, and 3. We're not planning the execution of, we are building the zoning plan to allow that at our own decision if we want to. Phase 1 will encompass evaluating the impact on dining, parking, et cetera. And we'll go, and each phase will include additional planning as we go forward. But, you know, I just want to make sure you have, like Mike mentioned, the idea that, you know, we're not talking, okay, we're adding, you know, 1,000 people to Falcons Landing. It's a relatively small number in phase 1. We'll figure it out, accommodate it, and analyze for it, not just wing it, and then be able to go forward. Now, like I mentioned, those 2 units are going to bring in an additional revenue of $800,000 per year. And the additional expenses, including, you know, and that's going to cover the additional expenses of people, the food, the staffing. You know, that's going to accommodate that. And we will go ahead and, you know, and make sure that this is a good, well thought out plan, not just throwing something against the wall. Who's got a microphone? Sir.
Listening to this, all the heated discussion, less than calm discussion, this, to me, philosophically inevitable conflict between the present and the future generations. And all I get this impression is we have to see to the comfort and whims of the future generations. And I think everybody in this room, they contributed and served their lifetime to the service of the country and the future generation. And they are being asked again to sacrifice again. I don't think that this doesn't sound a very plausible proposition. And one of the things that I'd like to hear from the board or from Mr. Rossi is what kind of market research has gone into this. We have to yet to hear from this. And we have this grand expansion plan of the building modern facilities. We can build the castle on the sand, and we don't have anybody occupancy to occupy it. That's going to end up in literally a castle on the sand. And the other thing I would like to hear is the financial feasibility. And earlier comment that you made, there was that it will be self-sustaining. We have not seen the clear evidence that this will be self-sustaining. And if it doesn't work out, what is the contingency plan? And we have yet to hear about that. So now I would appreciate if you could address those 2-3 points.
Let me just talk about the self-sustaining aspect first. Is, you know, like I mentioned, the board was struggling with how much information do we share when we don't know all information, or we're not. I don't have an absolute answer to you. Our preliminary estimates looks like this will all work out. That's why the board hasn't said, go ahead and execute this plan now. The board wants to see more detailed financials, better cost estimates. How are we going to, you know, what's the, you know, the sales price? What's the implementation time frame? What's the, you know, the funding cost? All those things have to be factored. We haven't got that far yet. I'm telling you what I expect and project at this point. We haven't got to the decision point where we're going to execute yet. This, you know, and your concerns, you know, where you say, hey, give me all the specifics, all the numbers, you know, tell me to the nth degree what's going to be the impact. We don't have that yet. That's the reason why the board was cautious about talking about this, because we didn't have all the answers, and we still don't. But what I want you to be assured of is the board is responsible, is going to evaluate this carefully, and not just say, okay, go ahead and execute. We have no idea whether it's going to work out, and it'll all fall. The residents will just absorb whatever we do. That's not the intent or the plan.
What I hear from you, if I take it correctly, is you just trust us, it will work out. And I find it very difficult to accept that.
Well, the problem is Falcons Landing is run by an independent board, and you have to. Let me take that back, okay? And I apologize how that came across. What I want to say is the board is built for a long-term protection of the residents, the facilities, the planning, the on-board organization. And that's what we want to do. Do we have all the answers on every aspect? No, we don't. But we take action as appropriate when the facts present themselves.
So I will, can I still answer a question? I got it. I'll get to you in a second. So to go to I guess in today's society, it's called the snowflake theory, the next generation which can't have their egos bruised or must have their life presented to them. So I'm going to bring it back to what's in it for you. I mean, why is this? You're happy, you like what you've got a good situation, you've got other than maybe today, you've got usually, where you've got a pretty non-confrontational, life and things are good. And why can't we keep it the same? Why can't we shine it up, hire an architect, make things better, but why can't we just shine it up and call ourselves the premier care, 20 years from now, call ourselves the premier continuum of care place, but maybe not really be that. So let me put it in terms of what it means to you. So say, for example, we don't set the conditions through the regulatory process to go ahead and even have the ability to do these market studies and do the further studies and gather the facts and do the things because we didn't go back and ask for permission to grow or to change Falcons Landing someday. We didn't have that diligence. So we come to the point, and occupancy isn't 94%. Occupancy is 85% because we couldn't attract that next group of folks to come in because they weren't looking for. We didn't have enough Monticellos. We had something else. They had a better option somewhere else. All the other things were good, but given the expense, what does that mean to you? What does that mean to you as a current resident who wants to live here till for the next 30 years, right? Roughly, it's a good order of magnitude here. For every % of occupancy that we don't have from where we're at today, you can expect the fees to rise by 1%. By 1%. So if you go from 93 to 85, that's 8% difference. For yourself sitting here, if we can't compete, we talk about this market, if we can't compete. Now you can be happy where you're at, but there is again, we're a business, we're not a money-making business, but we're not a money-giving business, we have to operate. And that's the math of, in rough general terms, that's the math of the business side of this things. And this whole idea about, about creating I'll use the word again, a portfolio of offerings to future residents, whether they're, mamby-pamby millennials or they're, greatest generation or whatever the next piece might be. That whole idea of offering that group, whatever they are, the best that's out there, our feeling is that presents as a business for the people that currently live here and for the next generation of people, the ability to keep this place full and keep it affordable for folks and trust the current residents. I talked to NHT. I'm going to get to you in 1 second. I talked to my business partners. I'm coming out here, who's done a lot of public meetings like I did. And I said, yeah, I'm going on the board. I've got a public meeting, and they're all a bunch of retired warriors. And he goes, oh, good luck with that. This is like a bunch of, this is a bunch of guys that were bred to fight. And I said, and you know what, their spouses might even be tougher on me here. So he understood that we were coming in, and you guys, I understand, we're passionate people. We're by and large type A's. We're warriors, retired and all, and we're not gonna take what we don't like without at least some commentary as we go through. Now, sir, yes, there you go.
You guys fight it out.
Okay. My name is Charlotte McClintock. I'm a 20-year resident, 10 in a house, a duplex, and 10 in an apartment. I moved in as part of a married couple. I am now a widow. I was on the board and president of the council during the first master plan. It wasn't quite as contentious as this meeting has been. But what I want to tell you is that we are privileged to be here with two of our board members taking our questions, listening, because when we moved in, we signed a paper and we agreed that the board was the ruling agency. Now, that wasn't what I intended to say today at all. But sitting here listening to all of this, I felt that I needed to say, in my experience in 20 years, the board has never not thought about what was good for our future and our residents. And what makes us so unique and so very special is that we have all been through wars, peace, traumas of various kinds. None of us are without pain of one kind or another. And through the support we give to one another, the friendship we give to one another, you know, I couldn't have enjoyed the 4th of July without every one of you. You were special to me, and you made this place special. And above everything else, we need to remember politics, religion, and a 10-year plan can't divide us. We have to stay together as this wonderful, wonderful community. And just be nicer to your neighbors and give them support, because some of them are going to have to go through a very difficult time, and we need to be especially kind and especially helpful to them. And, you know, does anybody remember what John Verban used to say? Every time he'd have you over for cocktails, he'd pick up the cocktail glass and he'd say, "God bless Falcons Landing." Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. HT?
I got a couple of comments. One, when your board looked at all this, did you look at modifying other things without tearing down facilities? We all recognize that we need or will need a memory unit, but it would seem that making it part of the Johnson Center and not having a third facility would be best. And the question, I have a second one, but to answer that one, did you look at modifying things, look at the property around us and seeing if there was additional opportunities? West Falls and also around here.
I mean, that's been a question and an effort since the original master plan in 2008 and looked at in 2011. It just doesn't appear to be any good alternatives based on our requirements for control, for access, for all the things that you want to have involved in a memory unit, which includes, an area to live, dining facilities, staff facilities, et cetera. Just, bumping out an area in various locations really doesn't answer the mail as providing a first-class facility for a memory care unit. And, we've gone back to that with the RLPS and who's the architect, and there are just not good alternatives with the layout of what we have here.
But even today, we're understaffed in the Johnson Center and other places, and if you build another one, it'll make it even more difficult. Going on to my second comment, the board I recognize is independent, but the whole purpose of the board is to support the FROC community. And we feel very badly that the FROC community was not involved in making the plans that you discussed. Thank you.
My turn. You folks remember that we just celebrated a wonderful anniversary here called the 20th anniversary. And one of the activities in that 20th anniversary was a panel discussion about the past and some comments about the future. And I wish that you had been here. I have in my hand a page out of the Falcons Landing News reporting on that particular panel discussion. And one of the panelists was a predecessor of yours. He was John Shawd, previous chairman of the AFROC board. And he was also involved in the AFROC board when Falls Church was, when Falls Church. I'm geographically unoriented. He was chairman of the board when you put on that addition to our facility. And he gave some very interesting, I think, very interesting things for us to consider. He talked about the future, and he reminded us of 3 important issues to always consider. 1, be competitive, check the competition, stay ahead. 2, always go for quality. And you folks have talked about those kinds of things. But number 3, I think you missed. Number 3 says, if I could have my glasses, it would even be easier. No, thank you. It says, remember your base, the residents. Keep their trust and be transparent with your plans and your discussions. And I think it's on that last part that I suppose I could say you failed, but that's kind of hard. I'll say that you've got a lot of room for improvement.
I appreciate those comments, and we take those to heart. I mean, we certainly, as I mentioned before, we certainly don't think that this rolled out how we would have preferred. And I've stated, sort of what sort of the board process, such as it was, about how to roll it out, how to discuss it, however faulty it was. I hope you give credit to the board that the board wasn't trying to hide anything or be malfeasant in any way, shape towards the residents. We're really trying to figure out what to say, how to say it, that educates people without, and being able to answer their questions when we can. So I recognize that last part. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I would like you to clarify how many construction phases there are. We were told there are 4. I mean, there are a lot of people here who will be impacted by later construction phases. And also, our CEO gave us some rough dates of when these phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4 will be started. And we would appreciate if we had some better idea about that, because you mentioned only 3
Yeah,
phases.
he made a mistake.
Put the site map back up while you're talking about this.
Sure.
You took it down, that was clever, but put it back up.
That's the first person that's called me clever this whole afternoon here. Thanks, for that underhanded compliment here. Okay, so here's the map. I don't have the other phases thrown up, but Admiral Timmy was incorrect in saying there were 3 phases. They are 4 phases in the plan as we have it today. And I don't have the 4 phases up because I don't have it right behind me.
You have your pointer, show us where they are.
Well, I need my map. I need my my go by, because if I make a mistake, it'll be shown to us here. So, where's my pointer? Phase 1. Phase 2 in this area. Phase.
Where are you?
Here, see the red? So I'm not going to point to the quarters because I don't have the overlay, all right? But along Grissom, phase 2. Phase 3 is Langley.
That's Acre Street.
Yeah, can you get the overlay? So we'll talk to the specific, we'll get the overlay. So the question becomes, that's the 45-year, the 30-year plan, if executed, if executed.
That's what you're asking the county to approve.
That is what we are asking the county to approve.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to, a couple of comments here, and Admiral Simi had the mic as we're waiting for this particular piece here. All along, the board has been very conscious of the communications, and I think you had it right. I mean, I'd read the article about the small group discussion during the 50-year anniversary. I remember reading that. I actually anticipated the question or the failure comment that you're going to give. We kind of knew it, and you're spot on. I mean, we agree. We know that was the hardest part of this, because the truth be known, the math, the studies, the engineering of this is not the hard part in all this. It's the human element of change in this other piece. I know what the part that keeps driving me, my personal piece on the board, and that drives me towards trying to look at Falcons Landing 30, 40 years from now, goes to, it really goes to trying to make sure that this place, we know it's vibrant today. We know it's probably going to be vibrant for the next 5 years, but can we afford, can we afford to, and I said, basically stand pat with what we can offer, apartment and a cottage, and the memory house goes towards being premier and world class as well, and let ourselves get as an entity, as an entire community, to where we become the tired place. We become the place that says we've got a great spirit to ourselves, but we're not we can't offer the premier facilities as our goals and our vision states. We can't offer the premier environment. We can't look our residents in the eye because of decisions we made 10 years back and say, look, we don't have a memory house, even though we have a need that is not good, second class, right? It's an add-on, or it's an adjunct, or we did something that was less disruptive in the short term, but is clearly not a state-of-the-art, from what the entire industry says, a state-of-the-art memory house to take care of our current residents and future residents. And also, as far as the terrace homes, at least not even have the option on the table to have that in our portfolio, and look in hindsight in 20 years and say, we've got, we're a great place. We just let ourselves get tired, is on the facilities side, and we can't look we can't have that same swell your chest up pride that we have today, because we can look to our left and our right and in this local community and say, we even went down to Bishop Gadsden, which is the hoity-toity premier private enterprise down in Charleston, South Carolina, and said, we're every bit as good as these guys. There's some things that they're doing that are on the next level, and we're going to get there, but we're still first class. That's where I'd feel I as a board member, in the time I've had behind me and the year I've got left, where I'd be failing you if I just kind of, drop the baton instead of handing it to George and saying, look, and the rest of the board, and saying, look, we set the conditions for this place to be a premier place. All right, so I'm going to have to talk to it, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Get a thumb drive if you want me to.
It's okay. No, I'm good. All right, so. Yeah. Okay, yeah, although the one we still have is not 100%. Okay, so here's I'll point, okay? So we've got phase one. What the hell did I do? It's not me, guys. All right, so. You wonder why we didn't get notice of the county sending the letters out, huh? We can't get the briefing straight here, but. And I'll say it again, phase one wasn't decided upon until last kind of how we were going to do the where. All right. Okay. So, phase one. 1, 2, these three. Got it? Phase two. Reasonings for the phasings as we did. Just so I'll tell you my thinking and the redevelopment committee's thinking in proffering to the board the following phasing was that, rather than do these willy-nilly all over campus simultaneously, that in consideration of the residents and to try to make sure that we can get economies of scale, make this as efficient as far as money and constructability goes, to do things in groups, to plan the phasing in groups. Phase one is here. Phase two is here. Phase three, if we were to do it, same with phase two, is here in this group. That's 4. Are you sure? All right, and phase 3 and phase 4 then. That's the memory house. That's the memory house. So,
It's that great big one at the top of Lang.
so Barb, what? No, sir. No, there is no, we removed the one at the, now again, this becomes why, when we want to keep you informed or be transparent in the middle of the process, everybody's working off a different piece of data. This is the plan that we're submitting to, as we sit here today, that we're submitting to the county. There was at the main gate, in original planning, there was a large unit right here, a large apartment. The redevelopment committee and the board looked at that, looked at how we thought it would change the character of Falcons Landing. If you were to drive into Falcons Landing and get hit in the face with that large unit right there, we thought that wasn't the right and best place to do it. So this is what we're professing. And again, y'all are asking to be watched making the sausage, right? You're watching kind of what came through the deliberations of the group and how to work this thing and through the phasing. And we did it again. All of these, as Admiral Timmy said, are an option for the future. So we can get permission to do this if we wanted to in the future with adjustments. You can always amend the plan, but as long as you get the permission going in. Yeah.
So like Mike mentioned, this highlights the challenge the board had. This phasing of the plan, and including where phase one, the first ones, wasn't approved by the board until the June board meeting a month and a half ago. Okay, so that's part of the concerns of the board is, putting out the piece of the law before we'd settled on, and the board had voted and agreed on how the plan was going to go, the phasings, et cetera, is plopping that in front of you and say, okay, we're not sure exactly what's going to happen, but this is kind of what we're thinking. And then everybody, as Jerry mentioned, is working off to a different sheet of paper, rumors fly. So we were trying to be consistent in the information flow that we had, and I recognize we bungled it, okay? I recognize that, and I apologize profusely. But that was part of the concerns where we had, just somebody else pointed out, no, you got the wrong plan up. We've got no, we didn't, because that was doing it. So, I hope you give the board credit for not intentionally trying to confuse you or hide things. It's just, as like Mike so eloquently said in Army speak, you're watching sausage being made.
Oh, thanks for that again. All right, we've got, you're holding a mic, you can stand up. All right, you're next.
Okay.
Get a mic, and then then you're next, sir. Then you're next.
The problem with multi-part questions seems to be that half the parts get ignored. Ken Cho asked you about market research, and you guys went to Pennsylvania, you went to Charleston. Surely these other people are ahead of us. Maybe they're selling the units. There must be others somewhere in the country. Hopefully there are some in competitive environments like ours. How are they selling? Hotcakes? Or,
All of the, we can give the, I think, the word we got back when we both visited Pennsylvania and we visited Charleston were that the units were all sustaining, they all were sold, and then they were continuing the growth. They were adding units. Now, both those places had a luxury we don't have. They had the luxury of space. They added. I mean, they had green space they could build it on. They weren't having to disrupt. They weren't having to disrupt. I know that Pennsylvania market was particularly competitive. There seemed to be a retirement community every 5 miles as we went through there. But they had green space, and they were selling out. They were selling out far in advance. And same thing in Bishop Gatson was saying too, that they were all spoken for, and they were building.
And the market analysis, just a second, sir. The market analysis that we've gotten from our architects who survey the market is that these units that they do, that are designed like this, sell quickly, sell to younger clients, and really boost the occupancy in the communities that they're built in. And so that's the bottom line, is ensuring occupancy for the future. Sir.
Hi, I'm Rod Wright. I am the newest resident, I think, 6 days now. And I can tell you that I'm a little bit of the marketing kind of idea. When my wife and I were looking, we were disappointed that we only had 8-foot ceilings. We were disappointed we couldn't have a balcony. We had reasons why we needed to come here, and we're really, really happy and greatly treated. But I think, my personal opinion after listening to all this discussion is, first of all, I've been in the change business in the military and in the federal government and in the civilian industry in the Washington area, and change is inevitable. It keeps happening, and you have to keep up. And that's just something I wanted to say. So I want to tell you that we waited an extra 3 months in order, living out of a suitcase. It's not quite true that we lived under 66 in that gray tent, to get it in, because that was really important to the kind of lifestyle that we have. And I may be 75, but I think I represent a younger generation in terms of the way that we use and information and so forth. So for us, some of these things which you mentioned would have been supremely attractive. And we saw some of this in other facilities, but frankly, for us, they were too far away. But you need to stay competitive, and I'm in agreement, I think, with what I've heard here today. I do think we need to protect this absolutely stunningly great community, and that's what I think we're doing. So careful expansion and change is needed and inevitable. Let's do it the best we can. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I mean, that's one of the key things of why we plan to do it in phases. Is implement, learn from it, because you always learn from any projects that you do, make improvements, and go on. So this is why this is not a cast in concrete, we're going to do all 4 phases or all 4 phases at once. Those decisions haven't been made. What we're doing right now with the county is saying this is the maximum possible we envision that we would do in the next 40 years. Please approve that, and gives us maneuvering room within. Yes, ma'am.
I'm one of the newer residents, along with Rich and Nancy, and I fall into the baby boomer category. It took us 5 years to find this facility. We came because of the people, the uniqueness of this community, the bonds of this community. And you're asking us to accept change, but I don't see any commitment on the board's part to accept the change to a hospitality approach to these extra people that are being brought in, or to look at how baby boomers, when they ask you to do something, expect it to be done soon. So there has to be some addition in staff and time responsiveness, because you're not going to keep the people. They're going to move in and they're going to move back out. So when you review with these people who chose not to come or they left after the move-in, you need to take that into consideration too. And getting acts out among us and having more opportunities to talk to us. I have been to many AFROC meetings and I have never had the opportunity to talk to a board member. The code of Virginia says you're supposed to meet with us quarterly, and that we should have free discussion of anything that's going to impact our facility, our fees, our expenditures, the health care. We have a lot of people here that have spouses who already might need additional support services, but nobody is surveying us about what do you really want to see in the memory unit. Ashby Ponds went high-tech. If you have looked at what's going on in the metropolitan statistical area, there are a lot of CCRCs breaking ground. Are we going to be building in an oversaturated market? So when you can't give me the market trends, that's really scaring to me, because there's one going into Ashburn, there's one going into South Riding. You said Vincent Hall, which is one of our strongest competitors. Ashby Ponds added a memory unit to be more competitive. And on the surface, they look cheaper than we are. But because of our unique community and the common bonds and the extraordinary people that live here, I have never had a dull dinner with anybody on this campus. And we've come on and we put down roots and we formed a family. And I don't hear anything about you addressing the uniqueness. We can be a major boutique CCRC without overbuilding or building something that maybe they don't want. And we looked for 5 years and stayed in different CCRCs for weeks at a time to see what the atmosphere was and turned down terrace homes. So I just wanted to make that statement.
Thank you for the comment. You know, certainly what we're not talking about is, we build these, let's throw open the doors, and whoever wants one can have one. The same criteria, the same type of recruiting, the same type of bringing people in that we've done in the past, we'll continue to do. The main effort is to have those people want to come here. We heard from somebody that has just recently come in, our newest resident, saying, hey, those are things that he found attractive. I think you mentioned that you came here, you said, hey, a couple things that you said I'd like to focus on. You said, I turned down a terrace home to come here. What does that tell you? She made a choice to come here and turn down something you thought was attractive. That's how I interpreted what you said.
With no yard, but we have a patio. We're within walking distance of the entrance to the community building. We came here because we had friends already living here.
Exactly. The point is not to make you choose between that, is to make it attractive. You talked about being, hey, Vincent Hall, Ashby Ponds is adding memory units to be competitive. The viability of Falcons Landing in the future is not going to be assured by hunkering down and just say, hey, come, join here. Our facilities are not as good or as attractive as others, but you'll love the people. I mean, we know that, but do we really want to make people have to make a choice? We really don't. We want to make sure that they say, I want to go there because of the people and the facilities. This is a world-class place I want to go be. So, I think, yes, ma'am.
We live on Langley Drive, which is scheduled for Plan 3, which means all of the houses on Langley Drive are going to be torn down. We live in Monticello, and the house next to us is Monticello. You're going to be tearing down 2 houses with cathedral ceilings, 2 bedrooms, and a den, and balcony or patio. And we're right across from Building 1, which means we can walk across the street and go in. I hope you'll re-look at that plan, because those are the preferred houses, according to you, with room and big high ceilings. My question is, if somebody moves off of our street, is the marketing department going to be able to sell that house, knowing that maybe in 10 years it's going to be torn down and they're going to have to relocate?
Well, certainly as phasing is scheduled and understood. Keep in mind, right now, the only thing we're talking about is, number one, get the zoning approval for everything so we have flexibility. And number two, if things fall into place and everything that we expect by our projections, fall into place, we start construction 2018, 2019, finish that in 12 months to 24, and then 24 months, and then we think about maybe the next phase eventually. So, this is not imminent. Now, certainly, each step of the way, before we make any decision or make any commitments, we're going to be evaluating, reassessing what we learned, what didn't we, what improvements could we make. So I assure you that, that part is going to be clear. Any potential residents that may come into homes that are may be affected by a certain phase, we'll be discussing that as things go forward. I learned as a personnel officer a long time ago that if you tell somebody what's going to happen, they may not like it, but at least they can plan for it, and then they start thinking about it, and okay, I can do this and do that. It's uncertainty which is the killer, which is so hard. Recognize that. We're trying to address that, and that's the reason we're here today. Like I said, we didn't finalize the phasing until this past board meeting. I'm not sure who is next.
To amplify what, it was my wife speaking, to amplify what she was commenting about, I would be commending of the board certainly for what you have initiated. Planning is important. We moved from Vienna, and anybody that is familiar with that area knows that after 25, 30, 40 years, the houses that were originally built in Vienna are no longer desirable or even habitable. So it's entirely possible that the facilities that we have here in another 5 to 10 years are going to have to be replaced, not just sort of cosmetic things that are being done now. So you're to be commended for that. But I think two things that are shortcomings beyond what have already been identified. One is there's a lot of talent in this room. And I think one of the things that is perhaps either absent or hasn't been identified is participation by residents in the planning process. Yes, it's up to the board, but I think it would be remiss of you not to incorporate some of the residents here who would have good ideas and good input to the process. Secondly, I think that one of the things that you've talked about is occupancy. Nobody has addressed, and I'm not even sure that you're thinking about it, that the things that have been identified so far to us that has been a problem with occupancy are the one-bedrooms. Nothing's been mentioned about how you're going to do that. Are they just going to sit empty forever? Or have you got on your agenda some efforts to identify what can be done with the one-bedrooms to be able to upgrade them or change them in ways that will make them attractive? Because that's part of the process, not just to replace some of the freestanding units, but also some of the stuff that's internal.
Thanks for your question. I'm going to combine an answer for that with something that she mentioned, is, obviously, having, all the residents on the committee